Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Step Up to the Mic. This is the place for aspiring and established speakers to take the stage, deliver their talks, and bring them directly to you. Today's featured speaker, he is a 17-year-old gentleman who hiked the Appalachian Trail, 2,200 miles. He's a retired attorney, recovering alcoholic, and a Marine combat veteran. He is also the author of A Spiritual Passage. Please welcome to the stage Rand Timmerman.
Hi, yes, my name is Rand, and I am a drunk. Oh, sorry, wrong meeting. So my most recent claim to fame is hiking the Appalachian Trail when I was 72 years old. That is the longest footpath-only trail in the whole world. It goes from Springer Mountain, Georgia, to Katahdin Mountain in Maine. It has almost a 500,000 feet of elevation changes up and down. About 3 million people walk on the Appalachian Trail every year, but only about somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 actually try to do the whole thing. They're called through hikers. And of that, normally about 17% or about 450 to 500 people make it every year. So that is my most recent claim to fame. How the heck would a 72-year-old man end up hiking the Appalachian Trail? That's pretty crazy, right? I mean, it is ludicrous. And that's what I told my brother when I was hiking with him in the desert in Utah in January of 2018. His wife had just died, Edie, and this whole thing was Edie's fault. Um, my brother and I were both combat veterans in the Vietnam War. I was in the Marine Corps. Ronnie was in the Army. We both at one time were machine gunners on helicopters. We were a long ways away from each other, but so when my brother and we came from a very poor rural background. I had attended a little bit of college, but that didn't work out for me, and so I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and Ronnie enlisted in the Army. And when we came back home, uh, Edie, who became Ronnie's wife, was our mother's best friend, 14 years older than Ron, 7 kids, divorced. And the next thing I know, they're riding around in a convertible, and she's wearing red cowboy boots and a mini skirt, and they're going line dancing. And he fell madly in love. And they married. They became very involved in the Mormon church. My brother became a bishop in the Mormon church, and they moved to Utah and had a great, great life. Edie left Ronnie with 27 grandchildren, 7 children, 27 grandchildren, and now 30 great-grandchildren. And we had not been particularly close after when we were adults. They lived out there. I lived in the East. I did go to college when I got out of the Marine Corps. I became an attorney, and I had a great career despite a little alcohol problem from time to time, which got really worse in my late 50s, early 60s. But by the time Ronnie's wife, Edie had a massive stroke in 2011, and she died in 2017. And for 6 years, Ronnie took care of her because she never got better. It was mini strokes, and bless her heart, she tried the best she could, but it was a tough, tough time. My brother wouldn't let anybody else take care of her, and then after she passed, I did go to Utah to see Ronnie. First time I'd been there, and we were hiking in the desert. And I said, "What are you going to do, bro?" Because I could tell he was really struggling with the grief. He said, "I'm going to hike the Appalachian Trail." And my brain was like, "There's no way." I had hiked quite a bit of the Appalachian Trail, not a lot of it, but I had a few sections here and there over the years. I knew how hard it was. Luckily, I ran 26 marathon as an adult. Did a bunch of cross-country ski races in the wintertime. So I had a pretty solid foundation of physical, fitness. And Ronnie had done a lot of hiking too. I didn't know it, how much he had done, and mostly out west. And so we were both, for our age, we were both pretty good shape. I had an artificial knee. My right leg is a half inch shorter than my left. So I'm thinking 2 weeks max. So I asked Ronnie, when are you going to do this? When are we going to do this? He said, you'll go with me? And I said, yes, I will. He said, March 22nd. Really? So anyway, on March 22nd, 2018, we're at Springer Mountain in a snowstorm. And we started out on this amazing, incredibly difficult, very painful at times journey and in a snowstorm. I did write a book about it called A Spiritual Passage. I didn't intend to do that, but I did write this beautiful book about it with 500 color photographs. And we did the hike differently. Ronnie was more about just marching. I'm going to do this, head down. He didn't take hardly any pictures. I took a whole bunch of pictures. Took over 5,000 pictures of this amazing journey. I mean, imagine you're 72 years old and you're hiking on the Appalachian Trail, and all of a sudden you see in front of you a rattlesnake, and it's not getting off the trail. And my experience was while hiking the trail that we never stayed at the shelters, only a couple of times, but we all, we pitched a tent, whatever. And my experience though was I tried to go to every shelter so I could log in the log. So if anybody ever questioned whether we did the trail, I would have some kind of proof. Of course, I had the pictures too. But and a lot of times when you walk to the shelter in the middle of the afternoon, it would be full, and you could smell a certain substance before you even saw the shelter. So what my point is that a lot of people were hiking the trail. Not a lot. Some of the people who were hiking the trail were pretty young. Their eyes would look strange, and they would have headphones on, and they weren't really focused on what they were doing, shall we say. So I was a little bit concerned about them. And when I saw this rattlesnake, I tried to get it to get off the trail, but instead it coiled on me. And I'm like, what? And then I'm looking around, I realize there's a chipmunk laying by my foot, and it's got two blood spots on it. Aha, brain says, there's dinner. So I've got my eyes locked on this huge rattlesnake, and I crouched down, picked up the chipmunk, kind of shook it at him, looking at him, thinking, okay, here it is. And I threw it as hard as I could right over him and into the forest. And he whirled and went. You could not shoot an arrow as fast, I swear, as fast as that snake went. I thought, oh my God, if he really wanted to get me, there would have been nothing I could do, nothing. So we did see a lot of critters on the trail. There were a lot of humorous events that happened. And one day I was hiking. I usually hiked alone. Ronnie went north and I went south. We had two vehicles, so we would park on the trail because there's roads crossing the trail every 10 to 15 miles. Not all of it, but some of it. And I like to brag, I slept in a tent every night, and I did, but it was usually right next to my truck. And so in the morning, he would drive up to the next road that crossed the trail. He would go north, I would go south. So we never actually hiked together. I couldn't keep up with him anyway with my limp. So one day I'm hiking, I think it was in the Shenandoah Mountains, and I'm going up a mountain, and I hear somebody coming up behind me, and I turn around, and his growler, uh, something other trail. We all had trail names. Mine was Rambo. My brother picked that name out for me. And they're coming up the trail with there's three of them. And I turn and look, and they are buck naked. And Growler's in the front, and he's great big mountain man. Looks like Daniel Boone or I don't know, Paul Bunyan. Great big, strong, 25, 30-ish old man. And I go, what's going on, Growler? And he says, naked day on the Appalachian Trail, Rand. You didn't get the memo? No, I didn't get the memo. So I pulled off. They go by me. Now Growler is in the back. So I start out following behind him. Growler's in the back, and we're climbing Hogback Mountain. I'm not making this up. I think I'm just gonna pull over. And I waited till they got out of sight. When I got to the top of the mountain, they were dressed again, and we got back to normal, but that was pretty funny. So there was a lot of funny things that happened that I wrote in there. I also wrote about my spiritual journey in my recovery program. I was uh, by the time I hit my late 60s, that's why it's called a spiritual passage, by the way. My path to recovery was a spiritual passage. I had to have a spiritual belief and faith, or I was not going to be able to get sober again. My brother Ron was religious his whole life. He was spiritual his whole life. He helped a lot of people. I was kind of the antichrist when I came back from Vietnam. I didn't think there was any way there could be a higher power that would let things happen the way I saw them. And I carried that through. But then in the end, my spiritual power ended up being alcohol, which is spirit. Latin is spiritus. That's the name. And that God did not work out for me. And in the end, he owned my soul and he moved in, and I could not function anymore. I knew I was desperate. So I got involved in a program, and a man wrapped his arms around me when I was at my very worst and said, I will help you get sober. And he did. And it took me a year. I went through the program. I did the steps. The obsession to drink went away, and it's never come back. But I still very involved in that program, and I work with other men every day. And I do have a belief, a very strong fundamental belief in a higher power that's available for anybody. I believe that we all have a higher power. It's probably the whole creator of the universe thing is huge beyond human comprehension. Ronnie was always a very spiritual man. He still is today. And so we um, we did this amazing journey. I did not hike the entire Appalachian Trail. I only made 1,863 miles. I fell down a rock slide in Massachusetts, and it was one of those deals that you kind of see it coming, but I was on Wilcox Mountain in Massachusetts, and at the top there's this big rock slide goes right straight up, and the trail goes right straight up it. If you look at it and you're standing at the bottom, it goes, no way. And then you see the white slash mark way up at the top, and you go, oh my God. So I climbed up there. I was about 10 feet from the top, and my pole slipped. I could have just fallen on my face right there, and I would have been fine. But I stabbed, I whirled, and I dove off that thing like swan diving off a 20-foot diving board. And I closed my eyes and I thought, this is gonna hurt. And it hurt really way worse than anything I'd ever felt before where I didn't wasn't getting shot at. And so I took me a while just to lay there before I could even open my eyes. My foot had gotten caught, wedged in between a couple of rocks. Otherwise, I probably would have been killed for sure. But I managed to crawl to the top, and I could either go back down 3 miles or I could go out 9 miles. It was the choice. And I went out. I walked out, met my brother. He said, "You're hurting bad." And I said, "Yeah, I'm hurting really bad." And the next day, I couldn't got out of the tent. I could not move. So we went off the trail for a month, and then we went back. I actually did another 300 miles with a very badly bruised hip, which got worse. And at the end, I could not go. And when we were in the Whites, past Washington Mountain, we did Moosalok and then Wolf Mountain, and then I could not go anymore. So my brother finished it with his son Rick, the last part at Catadin Mountain, and that was in 2020, actually. So it took us 3 years, took me 2 years to do my part of it, and I did write this amazing book called A Spiritual Passage. It has 500 beautiful pictures in it. It's available on any bookstore online, or you can go to my website, randtimmerman.com, or you can email me at rand.timmerman@gmail.com. And if you want, I can even autograph a book and send it to you for $35 is normally. If you can't afford a book and you are struggling in recovery or whatever, let me know and we will work something out. Thank you.
Rand Timmerman, everybody. Rand, what an unbelievable story. I'm glad that I had my mute on while you were doing your presentation because I was laughing out loud over here at your tale, and I'm afraid I would have interrupted you just a touch by laughing
Yeah.
about it. But I'm just guessing that there were probably, another, 50 plus, entertaining moments on that trip, and you just sort of selected the best ones. Am I right?
Well, yeah, there was a couple other ones that were pretty darn funny, but yeah.
I would
I,
imagine.
I didn't realize, I thought I had to be around 20 minutes. I can't look down or I'm going to be breaking my concentration. So I
Oh,
lost.
you're totally fine. It was an excellent talk, even if it was a little shorter than what you first had planned. So let's, if you don't mind me asking you a couple of questions, the spiritual path in terms of your recovery, from alcoholism, the spiritual path. What role did the walk play in that? The trip, along the trail.
Um, it played a big part in it. I had 4 years sobriety. One of the things I talk about in my longer talks is that once I got sober, I had a young man ask me, I had just finished I was in 13 months and I had finished all the 12. It's AA, but we don't normally talk about, it's an anonymous program, so I have to honor that tradition. But asked me to be a sponsor, and I'm like, oh my God, you're not ready. And so I said, well, come back tomorrow and we'll talk about it. And then I ran over to my sponsor's house, Billy, and because I knew he was going to tell me, you're not ready. You only got a year, whatever. And he goes, looks at me, and goes, hey, well, mister, that's good. Go for it. I said, Billy, I'm not ready. And he said, oh, yeah, you're ready. You got a lot of bad experience. And now you got some good experience. And that turned out to be true. So by the time Ronnie and I hiked the trail, I had 4 years. From that point on, I was always working with other guys. So I had two guys that would regularly call when I would get up in the morning. I'd turn my phone back on and that I would talk to for a few minutes unless there wasn't a signal. And so I was constantly working with guys, and I've been doing it ever since. Makes all the difference in the world. It brings me a lot of joy seeing
Nice.
men be transformed. The men work with men and the women work with the women. I talked a lot about I had an experience in the Smokies. We got in real bad weather. I was by myself. I pitched my tent on a place where the trail was about 20 feet wide and dropped off 1,000 feet on both sides. I mean, it was crazy, bad situation. These huge winds came up. My tent turned into a body bag. It was just, my brother said, were you hanging onto the rods? It was a tent made for mountaineering, right? I mean, it was
Hmm.
made for wind and stuff, thank God. But it had two aluminum poles that went across the top. And then I said, no, I wasn't hanging on the rods. I was pushing down on the stakes as hard as I could with my hands and my feet. And the tent was just going boom, 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 boom. It was beating the crap out of me, Rory. And this went on for hours. The wind was coming up a valley. It was very wide at the base in the south, but it was coming in it came in like this. So the wind it was high winds and it was being funneled. And then sometimes it'd go to my right, sometimes it'd go to my left, and then it would go right over me and that tent would be, and I'm like, I'm dead. I'm dead. And I was praying to God. I said, God, you know what? I've been a pretty good boy here lately. And I'm trying to do some good work. But if this is it for me, well, I accept that. I will accept it, but I really don't want to. And I kind of kept saying that prayer over and over and over again. And finally, at daylight, or just before daylight, the wind slowly ebbed, and it was over. And I got out of the tent. I was pretty shaky, and I turned my phone on. One of the guys called me. He said, Ran, are you okay? And I said, yeah. Why? What's going on? He said, well, I've been watching the weather, and they're talking about tornadoes where you are. And I said, well, I didn't see any tornadoes, but it was bad. The winds were really, really bad. So, that was a blessing for me to be able to have that kind of communication with guys and have them cheer me on and keep me sane a little
And
bit.
and you volunteered for this.
I did. I did. I got really sick after a couple of weeks. I thought we were going to be done then. I ended up in the hospital. I was septic.
Oh, ouch.
I have hammer toes, and the top of them, the skin had worn off. My socks would be pink every night, red or pink, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So I ended up getting infection but they gave me quadruple biotics beyond normal and I waited a week and I went back and we just kept going. It was like that. It was hard time. Ronnie had a real breakdown one night, really bad. Then he had a spiritual experience. There's a picture in the book of the forest with this one spot where the light is coming down in like a total white, except there's a like an image in the middle of it. And it could be Jesus Christ, it could be Buddha, it could be what, I don't know. And Ronnie was scared at first. He took a picture of it. He thought about running and he go, wait a minute, I've never run from anything in my life. And then he realized it was Edie was talking to him. This is what he thought. He felt like it was Father's Day, 2018. And he was thinking about dad, he was thinking about Edie, and then he realized that Edie was sending him a message that everything was going to be all right. And he had a transformation at that moment as far as the grief, his belief, his faith went. And so we talk about that in the book. So there was both of us had experiences that were life altering, so to speak.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds just absolutely amazing. The now, you weren't any stranger to going through some hardships. I mean, you were a combat Marine. So some of this stuff probably seemed like old hat.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point because I will tell you, there were a lot of days. I fell every day. Usually later in the afternoon, we would start at daybreak, so usually around 7:30. And to hike them, I can hike. I still hike about 3 miles in about an hour and 10 or 15 minutes. But in
Wow.
the mountains, a mile in an hour, or maybe a mile and a half on a really good day, is about the most. You don't. It's just incredibly difficult. And then I would fall, and I go, well, oh, damn. And then I go, Rand, nobody's shooting at you. What the hell's wrong with you? Get up, you know? So I do my own little pep talk.
There you go. There you
Yeah,
go. It's all in perspective, your perspective, right?
that's right. Changes the whole perspective. Nobody's
I
shooting at
love
me.
it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. Rand, I appreciate you sharing all this, with us today, and and doing your talk up here for your sake to, be able to continue to work on it, but also for everybody to kind of hear it. It was very entertaining. Really enjoyed it. Tell everybody one more time where they can where they can contact you, and where they can find your book.
They can find my book on, it's on Amazon, Thrift Book, pretty much all the bookstores, or you can go to my website. It's just my name, lowercase, Rand Timmerman, all run together, RandTimmerman.com. And then you can see the links there to all the bookstores, and there's some videos and some things on there. And then they can email me at rand.timmerman@gmail.com. And I
Fantastic.
have people have emailed me. I had some pretty amazing experience since I started this journey. I'm 80 years old now. I'm still walking 7 miles a day, Rory, believe it or not.
You are
But
killing it. You are killing
yeah,
it.
I am. Well, I want to stay alive as long as I can. And I've been blessed, man. I got to pay back here a little bit. Um, but I don't do much of the social media thing. I haven't figured that out, to be honest about it. But yeah. And I've
Gotcha.
had people get back to me. Well, honestly, another host on another program afterwards, we talked for like an hour, and he was telling me about his father, who was a professional in the law enforcement business. I'll just leave it at that, and was really struggling bad. And he said, I wish somebody would do something for him. And so I said, well, give me his address, and I'll send him a book.
Ah,
So I didn't get the address for a while. I thought, well, it must be changed his mind. Then all of a sudden, I get this email from him. He says, oh, well, here's the address. I don't want my dad to know anything about this. So don't. So I sent the book to him. I just said, to his name, and may you overcome your difficulties with grace and dignity, or something like that, and happy trails. And I signed my name to it and sent it to him. And about a month later, maybe 5 weeks, I got an email back, and it just said, I don't know why you sent me this, but I decided to do a different path.
wow.
So that's what I'm looking for, right? To help people.
Right. I love that, Rand. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. Being able to make a difference like that. If you can change one life, then everything you did is worth it, right?
Yep. I believe
Yeah,
that with all my heart. Yep. And a lot of
100%.
people too, the other target for me is, I am older. I'm doing a lot of crazy stuff still, but a lot of my friends are gone, or they seem to be sitting home on the couch waiting to die. It doesn't have to be like that,
Yeah,
right? We need to have an attitude adjustment sometimes. Good old swift kick in the behind. I want to give that to people too. You don't just get out, do things, Um, we don't have to worry about the end. We're not there yet. So let's enjoy what we got and live life and help other people. The key is helping other people, right? Because as
right.
soon as you do that, your problems get a lot smaller. Right.
I love it. A great message. Absolutely great message and great mission that you're on. And I wish you all the best with it. Thank you again for coming on, man. It was great. It really was.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Folks, it's been another spectacular episode of Step Up to the Mic. If you are an aspiring or current speaker and you want to bring your talk to the masses, message us today. Never stop talking and let us help you step up to the mic.